Hey y'all, I'm Arthur. I'm a big and tall white guy with way too much red hair and identify as neurodivergent. And this is the third episode of me trying out Space Age. This is still my first playthrough. I haven't done anything else besides this playthrough for playing through 2.0 or Space Age. And I've been having just a blast. It's been a lot of fun. So here I am starting to expand out the rail station. It's going to just get wackier and wackier, but I'm really liking that the dynamic train instructions, the interrupts, scale through everything I've done with rails so far. And so it's just been really neat to see kind of that elegance where I don't have to sit here and tinker and stress over things. Again, I'm not very good at the signal game, and I'll be fighting deadlocks probably the entire game as I find more and more weird edge cases and make more and more inefficient intersections. But it's also really easy to fix a deadlock, especially with how flexible the tracks are, because at the end of the day, if I need to, I can just slap a bypass in where I find something that's not just like a signal error. And so I'll try to show those little glimpses as I expand out. We've already launched the rocket. I just need to get my materials together and everything, start making some space science, and then start heading our way out to a first planet so I can knock out the rest of those achievements that are blocked by that. Alright, I think I figured out my optimal design for a single wagon filling station. And again, it's designed to have one of those boxes read, or containers read by the station to trigger when it's available or not, which is going to be what's telling the other trains when to come. Alright, we got copper mining going. I like that I can tile blueprints. And we're starting to see the principles of how I kind of set up an inline mall, I guess you'd call it. Where I just have the whole bus going down, but instead of peeling off from the bus, I have the assemblers directly on the bus. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, oh, how could that possibly scale? It's like, well, you're going to see in a bit, but I don't think you're going to like it. Alright, let's see how these look when they land. Alright, so this is my old 16 belt throughput-unlimited splitter. However, this was made in space exploration, which has longer underground belts. And so as you can see when I just did the first test, that there's a whole section that doesn't work because one of the undergrounds is way too long for vanilla. So I'm going to have to play with this design a little bit and get it fixed up. There's a couple other places where that same issue arises. Okay, so after some tinkering, kind of looks like this, which is fine. It works now, but I don't like how it looks. And so I'm going to have to keep playing with it. But let's make sure that this thing works. And in case you're wondering, what the hell are you doing with this? Okay, so this is the whole point of the sushi-belt. I want to make sure that I can just have one single inline factory where everything is on the same belts. And the best way I figured out how to do that is by making have the sushi belt kind of going both directions the whole time, and always being mixed together so that you don't get uniformity based on, you know, proximity to whatever, you know, machines are nearby. And here's a much prettier design. This is, I think this is where I end up locking in. And once I blueprint it, I'll be adding some of the logistics stuff around it too for how I'm making the whole sushi factory talk to itself. But as you can see, it works. And it's throughput unlimited, so it doesn't matter which ins or outs are working, as long as at least one is, then it'll always move. And now let's try it out in space. So I don't quite get how space logistics works yet. So I'm going to be doing a lot of learning as this goes through, but you'll see where I'm going with it. And now we have stone for the train system. Okay, so copper I can't get from space, at least not yet. And copper wire is what I needed first, so I'm just going to be shipping up copper wire. I know that sounds crazy, but as you know, I did the math and I get better, you know, shipment per launch if I use copper wire instead of copper plate. And I love the force build, and the way that it interrupts the, like puts undergrounds on belts that you're force building over, because it made this whole kind of thing a lot easier, so I don't have to manually put all of the undergrounds and stuff. It'll just do it for me as long as there's enough length between either side. The way this thing works is it's going to send out via the red wire what it needs for the recipe, and then that's going to be going through the little mechanical thingy to multiply times -2 or whatever the dot ends up being, which is -2 every time I stamp down a constant combinator for that. And then it's going to add that to the belts being red. And so the idea being, it's like, okay, well, let's say the factory needs, you know, 50 steel plate, right? And so that's going to end up saying -100 steel plate on the belt. And then the inserters coming out of each inserter is only putting out its input or its output if the belt is reading as under 0. And so demand should always be met. You know, sometimes there gets to be an issue with how long it takes stuff to get from one side of the factory to the other with this design. And so that's why I have the -2 combinator in there. I'm going to add that pretty much every time I put the splitter doohickey. So as it grows, the demand across the entire factory grows so that there's more items on the belt, so there's a higher chance that it's distributed fully throughout the whole system. My first step in space is going to make it self-sufficient, so it's going to make its own pieces as much as I can, and then make the space science. And over time, this is going to turn into something much, much bigger, but at least just to get it going for now and kind of proof of concept it out, we're just going to be making space science and its own platforms. Alright, got a landing platform to start accepting space science. start the time feeding asteroids into the machine. I've got those kind of release valves for when I get too many asteroids, because it's obviously not going to be balanced yet. I'm sure once I figure out recycling, I won't have to do that, but this is where I am right now. And we're making science. You can see how the inserters are being balanced by how much to put on the belt versus how much the assemblers need raw materials for. And the only thing I'm shipping up from Nauvis is copper wire in order to make platforms and space science. Back down to the planet, I finally finished building sturdier defenses. You can see the interplay of kind of what I need. So right now I'm not getting nearly enough iron ore for what I'm trying to do. Eventually I'm going to have the entire Nauvis base be the same inline base as everywhere else. For now I'm going to make it so it makes itself. So it'll be capable of making its own belts, making all the assemblers and chemical plants and all that kind of stuff, the inserters, and anything I might be shipping into space or off planet. Like I said, these designs are going to go through a whole lot of iterations, but once I kind of get a perfected form, I might share the blueprints. And we've got our second space station, which is going to be our first one with engines, and we're going to send this fella off to Nauvis once I get it self-sufficient. And yes, this is also going to be a sushi ship. Alright, I've got the Nauvis Sushibase, Sushi Mall, whatever you want to call it, going. I'm only going to be feeding in raw or in plastic, because I don't have liquids on the belt figured out yet. When I was playing with this in the past, I was barreling all the liquids and then unbarreling them as needed. That ended up kind of being the throughput limit for the actual base itself, just because of the limitation of having liquids on a belt. We'll see if that's true here, but I'm going to at least try for now. I'm just going to belt in plastic made from the starter base. I think that's about where I'm going to stop here. So you see what I'm doing with the sushi as I unlock, longer underground belts or faster machines. I'm going to be seeing just how much I can sushi the entire system, whether it's the other planets or the space stations themselves, just the entire kit and caboodle. It's going to take me a while though, because first I need to get Vulcanus figured out. I'm going to need the more advanced logistics tools to keep the sushi base at a larger scale. I'm getting Coveric set up for nuclear. Eventually the entire base is going to all be on just the belts. And the railways will nominally be to get the resources from across the map into that belt station, but again, we're going to have to see. But anyway, thanks so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it, and catch you next time.